one if you'd like to start.
They said that Bill Lawrence said that he would have a couple of things for neighbors to read.
I mean, they're high class, and the fact that they only charge versus that.
It's funny how that works. I was just listening to a reason for economics.
Good morning, everybody. We're going to start the meeting in a second. So folks are welcome to sit wherever you want. We have lots of chairs. I encourage everybody to come and sit at the big table here. We got lots of chairs.
Some paper? I don't know if you know this.
It's new to me. Wow.
I know.
I thought it would be old school.
Instead, we'll have a party.
All right, see, look at this.
Need a gavel, yeah.
A little everyone bring one in.
I can't have it in lines. The lines.
I understand.
I'm the same way. Well, so I found. I wouldn't mind that. The dots. That would be perfect. Yeah. Because I find without the dots, you know, my.
Right.
Straight line writing. Well, I find in the morning.
No, not doing any good at all. Okay, we're calling the April 17th Planning, Energy, and Environmental Quality Committee to order. So thanks for coming. And as I said before, you're welcome to come at the table or sit back there. There's snacks back there to celebrate Barb Ekstrom's retirement and the fact that it's morning. Those two things. So we do have a really full agenda. It's great to see so many people here. So I am going to try and, keep things moving along as quick as we can. So I apologize in advance as we go through that. Do we have any public comment? Brittany?
We do not, but I did want to let you know that Greg Mezey has asked to be excused.
Right, that's right. Greg Mezey, one of our members, has asked to be excused. It's his birthday today, so he's taking the day off, so good for him. Any changes to the agenda?
We did have one more advisory board appointment that I did hand out to committee members that came in just as the agenda went out. So I just wanted to let you know that that was there. Okay,
I'll add that to those. And Brian Eden had asked me about the one from the resolution from the Climate and Sustainable Energy Board, that be moved up towards the Department of Recycling and Materials Management. So we might pull that up because I know Barb and Kat and Brian had worked on that. So we'll move that up to just right after the Department of Recycling. All right. Minutes approval is next. Would somebody like to move the minutes from the last meeting, March 20th? Moved by Veronica, seconded by Randy. Any discussion, suggestions? Okay. All those in favor? All right, that passes unanimously. We're off to a great start. The next, we have appointments to a couple of advisory boards. We have, this is the one that was added first, Lisa Strayer to the Environmental Management Council. And then we have also to the Environmental Management Council, Mark DeVocatis, and the Water Resources Council, David Wolf. Get a vote on those, right? Someone like to move those? Moved by Veronica, seconded by Susan. Any comments? All those in favor? All right, that passes unanimously also. Great. And Chair's report, I just wanted to say something very quickly. I'll keep it short since we have a packed agenda. Coming probably in July, I talked to Susan Holland from Historic Ithaca. She's involved with CROWD, Circulatory Reuse, Zero Waste Development, and their organization works on deconstruction and reuse of building materials. So they'll be coming to tell us what they're working on, probably June or July, to this committee. So that'll be interesting to find out more about. And moving right along, we have the Department of Planning and Sustainability. And we have first authorizing resolution on packet page 11, authorizing a contract amendment with Gravity Renewables to lengthen the existing remote net metering agreement at the Waterloo Hydroelectric Facility and to enable Gravity Renewables to sell renewable energy certificates on the county's behalf. And we have Terry Carroll here. And would you like to introduce our guest?
Yeah, so today we have Omai Elphick joining us from Gravity Renewables. And so we're going to give just a quick, short presentation, keep this moving along, and then if you have any questions, Omai or myself will be happy to try and take those on. And so some of this will look a little familiar from the presentation I gave in January to the full legislature, but I know, Susan, you weren't part of the legislature at that point, so some of this I think will be some helpful background. And the first is talking about what is a renewable energy certificate. So a renewable energy certificate, or a REC, is how we denote whether the electricity or the energy that's being used is renewable or not. And so one REC is equal to 1 megawatt hour of electricity. And so to put that in context, a kilowatt hour, which you might be more familiar with from your energy bills, is 1,000 of those equals 1 megawatt hour. So essentially 1,000 kilowatt hours equals a REC. We receive these renewable energy certificates from two sources. This thing's being a little weird. Back off? Okay. So we receive it from two different sources. The first is from our contract with Constellation. That's our energy supply company that we receive RECs and electricity supply from through our NYSEG bills. And the second is through our partnership with Gravity Renewables at the Waterloo Hydro Facility. A goal of ours is to cover our electricity usage 100% with renewable electricity, so we're looking to match our electricity usage 1-for-1 with renewable energy certificates. So that Waterloo Hydroelectric Facility that I mentioned, the way that facility works is it generates electricity on a daily basis. That electricity is seen by NYSEG. It goes into the grid by NYSEG, and basically they pay us a variable rate for how much that is being generated, or how much they attribute the cost to. That monetary credit appears on our electricity bill, or several of our electricity bills. It goes to multiple facilities. And in turn, we pay Gravity Renewables a fixed rate for every kilowatt hour that's generated. And so I showed it at the annual update on this. I don't have a slide for it, but in general, it nets out pretty well for us. And that's not even including the REC costs, which we'll talk about in just a second. This slide, there's a lot going on there, a lot of numbers, a lot of lines. What I want you to take away from this is that generation is variable. There's really no rhyme or reason to what we're going to see month to month, year to year. There are some trends. There are some months that tend to be better than others, but as you can see, November in some years has been a banner month for us, and then this past year was not particularly good. So it can be pretty variable, and what that means is that year to year, the generation can also be pretty variable. So we see probably that 2021 year was a great year for us. This past year actually was surprisingly not as well. So it just, we'll see year to year what it ends up looking like. But, translating this from the kilowatt hours that I mentioned into megawatt hours will happen in just a minute. But This is what a rec currently looks like that we get from the Waterloo facility. We have this nice paper. This one's from 2008. It hangs in my office. Jonathan Wood gave this to me right before he left. But currently, when we get the recs from the Waterloo facility, we don't do anything with them. They're not used to meet our greenhouse gas emissions goals. They're not used for the county to be able to say that we're meeting our 100% electricity goals. All of the recs that we need for that are basically supplied by Constellation. And the reason we do that is because it's a one-for-one that we get with Constellation as part of our energy supply contract. And then we don't have to worry about the variability and having to buy additionals in some years or having too many in other years. So right now, the Waterloo recs just kind of sit there, which is why we have this opportunity that I'm going to talk about. But here's the annual rec generation. You know, I mentioned the generation being variable, therefore the recs that we get are variable. Once again, 2021, great year. This past year, a little bit less so. So what is the opportunity? So, you know, we talked about this at that annual meeting. We're bringing it to you today, and there's an opportunity to partner with Gravity. Oma and I have been talking about this for a couple of years now, and it's, you know, they've been gracious enough to try and work out a model that, you know, we think will be really beneficial for the county. They're actually going to be taking it to other municipalities, other institutions, higher educational partners that they work with, and see if this is something that can work for other groups as well. But essentially what it's going to mean is Gravity is responsible for the vast majority of what's going to happen under this. They're going to be managing our rec portfolio, marketing those recs and negotiating the transactions, basically selling the recs on our behalf, and then they're going to be making sure that the money gets to us and providing that annual reporting of the transactions so we can just monitor what's going on. On our end, we just have to make sure that they have access. They have access to information, that we're working with them to sign anything on a timely basis, to just verify that things are going on correctly, and then we get to get a check. You know, so it's a pretty good deal overall for us. It's how we wanted to structure it, because we just don't feel like we have the capacity or the expertise to engage in the rec market on our own. So if we were going to do this at all, we really needed a good partner. And since we're already partnering with them on the Waterloo facility, this made, you know, a lot of sense. So what does this look like in practice? So some things to think about here is, you know, Gravity has looked at the previous 2 years, several years, I should say, of rec prices, and we've set a benchmark price of $12. And so anything up to $12, we'll be doing this 95-5 split. So 95% of the proceeds will go to the county, with 5% going to Gravity to cover their administrative costs and their, you know, as I said, the vast majority of the work that they're doing. Anything over those $12 will end up being a 50-50 split between Gravity and the county. And so that incentivizes them to go out and find us the best price possible. But we think this $12 benchmark is a pretty good one based on, you know, historic trends so far. So you can see year by year kind of what this breakdown would look like. You know, it ranges from about $35,000 to about $65,000 of revenue coming to the county. Again, this is very hypothetical. In a perfect year, this is not what it's going to look like. There will be some that might be sold less than $12. It might be sold more than $12. So I just wanted to give a kind of a rough estimation of kind of what you could be looking at and thinking about in terms of the revenue. And speaking of which, you know, what are we going to use this revenue on? So we had a conversation with, you know, Lisa Holmes, with Norma, with Drew as well, and talked about, okay, what would be a good use of these funds? And we came up with two basic ideas. The first is to apply it to the debt service for the Green Facilities Capital Project. That's basically using our, you know, rec funding to directly fund increased emissions reductions. You know, that's exactly what we want to do. The other was to offset potential future costs of procuring renewable energy. So if for some reason the contract with Constellation leads to outrageous prices to continue to procure renewable electricity, this funding can go to help offset some of that. It will likely never absorb the full amount that we would get from it, but it'll help at least offset some of it, and the remainder would go to the debt service. So that's what's in the resolution, is really targeting those two measures for using this funding for. So, you know, it's a complicated, you know, process. I think the memo gives a little bit more detail. So if you have any questions, you know, we're happy to try and take those on right now.
And Veronica?
Yeah, thanks, Terry. A couple questions.
one basic one, when you say we use renewable energy credits to meet our energy goals, what does that, can you clarify what that means? Like, are our goals written in terms of renewable energy credits, or are you presenting the certificates to some outside authority, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a renewable energy certificate, it really doesn't mean anything in terms of emissions goals or emissions reductions until they're retired. And so what we're doing is basically when we buy electricity from Constellation, it's matched with a renewable energy certificate that they're retiring on our behalf. And when they retire it, it means that nobody else can use it. And so it's basically being put into a different system, essentially a tracking system that looks at a renewable generating asset and saying, okay, this wind facility in Iowa, 10 megawatts of it went, per this contract to Constellation. They're retiring it on behalf of Tompkins County, and that's the way that we know that we've basically met that portion of our electricity being renewable. In terms of our renewable energy goals, we don't have anything written as such that says that we're going to be doing that. It's just part of our energy strategy to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by as much as possible, as quickly as possible. Really, the only and best way to do that is electrification, which is why we're doing so much on the green facility side, but then making sure that any electricity that we're using is renewable energy.
Okay. And so retiring a certificate means like kind of signifying that it's been used, or it's been
Yeah, it's
I don't know, someone has gotten credit for this, so you can't be look, our energy was renewable, and then sell it to someone else, and they can say ours too, and sell it to someone else. You can't do that.
Using a coupon once or something.
Yeah, and Oma, if you want to jump in.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's at the simplest level, it's just supply and demand. And so their demand is created by two markets. There's a compliance market, and that dictates utilities. They have to purchase RECs in order to satisfy the state goals. And the other market is the voluntary market, which is what we're talking about here. And the voluntary market effectively removes the supply from the marketplace through retirement, thereby raising and stabilizing the costs on the compliance side. So Tompkins, by doing this, by participating in the voluntary market, Tompkins is both making a statement, but they're also reducing the market's supply of RECs by basically taking them and retiring them. You could also put them under your mattress. It would amount to the same thing, which, I mean, all joking aside, is the way it was kind of done in the past. But moving forward, this has become a very, very transparent and documented marketplace, and the voluntary market actually makes a big difference in the overall REC price in supporting renewable energy projects.
Okay, thank you. And then can I ask another question?
Sure.
Kind of building on that, so from the perspective of whoever's buying the REC, would that be somebody who is generating or using, I'm not sure, energy that is actually non-renewable, but then if they buy the REC, they can say that it's legally renewable?
That's a good question, and I'll answer it like this. When Gravity, we have a large REC portfolio that we're constantly marketing and selling, and in some cases buying. We don't always control who's on the other side. However, the voluntary market is by and large where we find the most opportunity, and that's because we're selling RECs. I mean, the reason this partnership that we're proposing we believe is going to work well is because Tompkins operating on its own is talking about a very, very small volume. I mean, the costs associated with just going to market would outweigh a lot of the benefits. And so Gravity, even though we have, quote, a large portfolio, it's still very small by market sizes. And so when National Grid or NYSEG buy RECs, compliance RECs, they're purchasing in hundreds of thousands of RECs. We're talking about, even as part of this consortium of REC owners that we're putting together here with other schools and municipalities, we're still talking about a relatively small volume, which is what the voluntary market seems to want and feel comfortable purchasing. So by and large, we're selling to retail suppliers, like the Constellations and those that are selling to residential customers or small commercial customers a green energy product. So it's, yeah, but the most important thing that's happening here is that those RECs are being monetized ultimately by a renewable energy project in order to support the economics of that project, but it's being motivated by parties that want to, like Tompkins, green their operations and make a statement doing so.
Can you maybe give an example of just invent an example of a potential buyer of the RECs and why they might be doing that?
Yeah, sure. So the most common buyer that we see purchasing our RECs are competitive retail suppliers. Constellation is a good example of that. There are many others, Direct Energy. I mean, there's a laundry list. They are marketing because the market is demanding it, residential customers, small commercial, municipalities, because they're demanding green power products, just like Tompkins is purchasing from Constellation a 100% green product, so too are dozens of other organizations. Those are the parties that are purchasing RECs like the Waterloo RECs in order to demonstrate that their product is green. So any of the mailings that you get or the emails that are touting 100% renewable energy, they're able to make those claims because they're purchasing RECs on the open REC market.
I had a couple questions, and if you have some more.
Yeah, that's all I've got for now anyway.
Actually, may I add just one
Sure,
thing?
go ahead, Omai.
One thing that's important about, the discussion that Terry and I have been having is that Tompkins County is currently, correct me if I'm wrong, but Tompkins County is currently over purchasing its renewable energy. So you're at 130%. And so what we're talking about here is monetizing that extra 30. So we're not reducing, this is not going to reduce Tompkins County's claims relative to its electrical consumption. Essentially what you're doing is you're finding a better and higher use for the quote extra RECs.
And so the RECs that we currently buy some RECs, right? Renewable energy credits from Gravity?
No, we don't. Well,
or
I guess technically we buy them from Gravity. Right now it's a kind of a bonus in a way. We're buying the electricity from Gravity, and the electricity is coming with these RECs.
We're buying the electricity from Constellation at the hydro plant. No?
For Gravity for the hydro plant, and from
Gravity?
Constellation for just all of our electricity.
Okay, so we're not.
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead and try and explain to me then if you can. Because I'm just wondering, are we buying RECs also or not?
It's a weird system the way it works, right? So the way all of our electricity bills are under an energy supply contract with Constellation. And so what you'll see on our electricity bill is you'll see the normal delivery, and then for our supply, you'll see a separate page that has Constellation on that page. So all of our electricity bills are receiving electricity from Constellation, and because of that, they're all receiving renewable energy along with it. Our contract with Gravity shows up on the NISAG bill as an adjustment, a monetary adjustment that just basically zeroes out or reduces the amount of money that we're paying on the electricity bill in some capacity. And so, it might be $1,000 off on that, bill A, and for that, we're paying Gravity Renewables $900. So there's a $100 difference there that's basically the savings. Along with that, we also happen to get these renewable energy certificates from Gravity. As Omai said, we've never done anything with them. They've essentially been stashed under a pillow and just left there and not really thought about.
And I saw on a couple of things. Can you send the slideshow to all the legislators? Yeah. Since this will be on our agenda for tomorrow night, and I was hoping that you could come to that meeting to help maybe answer some questions that folks might have?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, if this is not on the consent agenda, we'd be happy to answer some questions.
I don't think this is it?
I think it is.
Well,
but
there's a good chance it's going to get pulled. I've
last time
heard
half
from
the
some,
consent agenda got pulled, so you never know.
Of course.
yeah, I've heard from at least one legislator that they wanted to talk more about it. I encourage them to watch this meeting, too, to hear our discussion. But one of those points that was brought up, excuse me, is the cost of the green facilities, our ambitious commitment to that. So I think that's definitely a selling point, that selling these RECs helps pay our debt on our green facilities. So I think that's good. Last question. You showed a picture of one of the RECs that had an expiration date, like it could only be sold in a certain amount of time?
So what we showed was basically a picture of the REC, and it was basically, the purchase period was from January to December of 2008. Omar, I'm going to turn it over to you. I mean, for the most part, people are looking for RECs in a given year. There is some opportunity to sell from previous years. That's not really what we're talking about here, though.
We're talking about going forward.
Yes.
Okay. And so I guess my question would be, why now, or versus why didn't we do it before?
I think the reason why we didn't do it before is I don't think anyone realized that we were oversupplying on RECs.
Okay.
So that was something until we had someone really taking a look at our energy and our electricity and kind of matching things up. I don't think we ever realized. And then once we did realize that was the situation, we started conversations. It's very complicated, so it's taken a long time to get to this point. But we've been talking about this for well over a year at this point. So, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess, did you just ask this and I missed it? But I think I still haven't wrapped my head around if we're selling these RECs, is this a way to enable someone else to use non-renewable energy instead of renewable energy? Or did you address that? Maybe for context, I'm a science teacher and not an economist, and I'm struggling to wrap my head around how the flow of actual physical energy is coupled or not with the flow of money and certificates in this context.
Yeah, I can take a stab at that. I was involved in really in the early stages of the creation of the REC market, and the reason the REC market was created was to try to get away from sort of grant funding incentives for funding and justifying the investment in renewable energy projects, this being in the early 2000s. And so the REC market was a market-based program that was dreamed up by folks a lot smarter than me to basically increase the cost of fossil fuels and divert those funds to supporting renewable energy projects, which the costs were very, very high 20 years ago. Those costs have come down. So the REC market has evolved dramatically. So in terms of your question, is this enabling somebody else to greenwash? Is that a fair?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. So I would answer it like this, is that the goal here is still to provide additional funding to support the creation and maintenance of renewable energy projects. And so one way to look at that is that, you have a residential customer, Mrs. McGillicuddy, who's consuming brown power from the grid, but wants to feel good about it, okay? So you could view that as Mrs. McGillicuddy greenwashing her residential electric bill. Another way to look at it is that her total cost of electricity has now suddenly increased dramatically, and that extra increase is being diverted to the renewable energy market. But the thing is that it doesn't necessarily mean that Mrs. McGillicuddy is being nefarious. She just simply can't purchase pure renewable energy from the local grid because she doesn't have a roof for solar or the space or the wherewithal or what have you. So the REC market becomes sort of a virtual way that allows folks that are motivated, either compelled or because they believe it's the right thing to do, to pay more for their not quite green energy that's coming out of their electric outlet, and taking that difference and diverting it in an open market supply and demand way that's transparent and auditable, but diverting those funds ultimately to a renewable energy project. In this particular case, we already have a contractual mechanism through the remote net metering that gives Gravity the revenue and the revenue certainty to both acquire Waterloo and also make all of the capital investments. And so in this particular case, as part of that contract, those RECs were included in that PPA of sorts, and that they're sort of, quote, extra, and that there is a market opportunity for Tompkins to monetize those in order to support its other green initiatives. There's sort of a very complicated, geeky poetry to it. But it is ultimately, I mean, all of this is ultimately about supporting green initiatives, whether it's the Waterloo plant or the initiatives that are being pursued at the county level.
Oh, my, I like that, the way that you described that, and I just like also to be able to say Mrs. McGillicuddy, you know, is buying her, or Ms. McGillicuddy, buying her electricity. I know years ago I paid extra on my utility bill to buy or subsidize renewable energy, and I wasn't necessarily getting those electrons until I put solar in my backyard. So I kind of look at it now, you know, at least in my head, how I'm rationalizing, and I will support this, is that the federal government, the state governments spend billions in supporting fossil fuel industries, very little to support renewable energies. So if this is a way to help support, you know, organizations and entities, municipalities, or using or at least supporting renewable energy projects that, voluntarily, or like you said, sometimes it's mandatory. So I feel much better about it now. And I'm one of those people that got for the holidays one year a renewable energy credit, so that I could retire one at home. But I understand it. To me, it makes sense to in the marketplace to supply these to other people. Anything else before we vote? Okay, I don't think
that was really helpful. Thank you.
I don't think we moved it, did we? So let's move that resolution and put that on the floor. This is authorizing a contract with Gravity Renewables to lengthen the existing net metering agreement at the hydro plant and to enable Gravity Renewables to sell renewable energy credits on the county's behalf. Moved by Randy, seconded by Veronica. I think we've had a good discussion. All those in favor? Okay, great. That passes unanimously. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Omai, for coming, and good to see you again.
Okay, thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Okay.
All righty. Next up, we have Kate Darfler, the chair of the Environmental Management Council, with their annual report, and that's packet page 15. Hi, Kate.
All right. Hi. It's my first time in front of you guys. I just am new to being the chair of the EMC, although I've been on the EMC for about 7 years. This is my first time getting to present to you. I'm not going to read the report or anything. You guys have it. Hopefully there's a few pictures in there. I just wanted to highlight a few items. for you. First is, you can see we had a lot of speakers come in. That's kind of what the EMC does. We spend the first part of our meeting learning, expanding our knowledge base, asking questions with different people around New York and around Tompkins County. And then we kind of move into our reporting of what we do in between meetings. One of the big things that we did last year that's important to the EMC is outreach, and we did a big flooding outreach event. It was held at the library called Flooding in Tompkins County. Are you ready? Let's talk about it. And we had Darby Kiley from Planning Sustainability. We had the Ithaca Fire Department there, Acting Chief Covert. We had a resident who had gone through an intense flooding event a few years ago out in Enfield, and then we had Doug Barnes from the Environmental Health Division talking about restoring your well after a flood. It was a hybrid event, which was new for us and pretty well attended and with new faces, and that was something that was important to us, is trying to reach out new people and not the people that we see at every single event for everything, and really trying to just talk about what to do about flooding. That was kind of a big thing from the EMC the past year, and then all of our committees continue to work. We have 3 active committees right now. The first is the Education and Outreach Committee, which I was the lead of the past couple of years. The big thing that Education and Outreach is working on is our Tompkins County Green Scene update, which hopefully you guys all get, and if not, I believe there's a link in the PDF that we sent that should be able to get you there to look at past issues. Our goal is to have a amalgamation of all of the events and news and items in Tompkins County. We're pretty narrow that way, specifically having to do with energy and environment and waste or anything like that. We scour probably about 100 different groups, either listservs or Facebook pages or anything that they're putting out to try to compile all of this into being a one-stop resource for people to go to say, I want to do an Earth Day cleanup. Where are they? Oh, I can go to the Green Scene, and they've looked at all the groups doing them and hopefully gotten them there. It comes out every 2 weeks, and we migrated it to MailChimp to kind of help with that distribution. We also have an active UNA committee. They're looking at the unique natural areas in Tompkins County. The fun thing that they did this year was they got to do an in-person field trip, which was fun after the pandemic. They went to the Dunfield Hill Oak Woods looking for a specific bluegrass, which they didn't get to see. And then they are working with the consultants, Karen Edelstein and Robert Wesley, on the UNA inventory updating process, which I believe will be kind of finished off this year. And then we also have a climate adaptation committee. They've been working a lot on working with the county planning on the hazard mitigation plan and kind of what to do as far as public outreach and kind of what questions needed to be addressed within that document. And then they're also looking a lot at these upcoming FEMA floodplain maps, which I'm sure you guys are all aware are a big topic issue, and talking about how to communicate to the public. And they even started this discussion last year, which we are continuing into this year. And that committee was also really integral with the Education Outreach Committee in the big public outreach event that we had in last October. And one thing that we kind of looked at this year, which was new, was how many hours all the EMC members put in just really in meetings, and then also creating the Green Scene update. And between, we kind of took an average of things, and the EMC donated over 500 hours last year to the county for all of the projects and work that we've been doing. That's kind of it for the EMC. I wanted to make one quick note. I saw on your agenda that you're going to be looking at the Packaging Reduction and Recycling Infrastructure Act and a resolution to help expand the state bottle bill. And I just wanted to note that I wholeheartedly support the member, and although it's not currently an issue, waste reduction is not currently an issue at the EMC because we don't have, unlimited bandwidth. It's something that many members are very passionate about, and about reducing waste. And the bill and the act that you guys are going to be putting a resolution forward or looking at a resolution forward would make a much needed positive impact on both of those. So I am happy to take any questions that you guys have.
Any questions for Kate? Randy?
Yes, you talked about education as one of your committees. Or how's the participation of youth? Is that?
Yes. So this is an integral question, and something that I am very passionate about is trying to change this. For youth, our first thing is we don't even allow youth on the EMC. So we are hopefully changing our bylaws this year to allow and to guarantee youth representation on the EMC. That is something that I am trying to do. It's a little slow process, you know how government works. And part of the youth, we were the Cornell people that came to our outreach event, but we haven't yet broken into the high school level on the various high school things. So that's something that we're, it's a slow process, but that's this year's goal, is to kind of really kind of work with youth. And when you read about it, you'll see we're doing a conference later this year, and something that I'm trying to work on is get youth involved.
Good. And on UNAs, so I understand how they work. I was on a planning board, so I'm familiar with them. But how does your committee identify new UNAs, or you're just analyzing or reviewing the current ones?
Yeah, they have a kind of a review process, and so what they are doing is the maps, we're using kind of old technology to make the maps, and plant species change with climate change coming, so they are redefining. They're sometimes ground truthing. Does this UNA was there because this species was seen there, and so they go and check to make sure that species is still there. They redefine it based on better mapping technologies or ground truthing where these wetlands specifically are. So it's not creating new ones, but redefining and better defining the current outlines of them.
Well, when you do a field trip, I wouldn't mind going along if the next time you do one.
Sign up for the Green Scene update, and then you'll see on there when we say we're doing, because we put in information about the field trips on there. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that link to sign up is packet page 18. If an easy way, if anybody wanted to sign up, would they just can we give you their email today?
Yes.
Does anybody want to sign up? How often? It's not very often you get the emails.
Every 2 weeks.
It's a compilation, so twice a month, every 2 weeks, you get an email, and you can look at it or not. And as Kate said, this stuff is compiled there, so you can look at past things too.
I'm happy to. I'll be here through the whole meeting, and so afterwards, if anyone wants, I can write down and auto insert you rather than you having to sign up yourself. So just find me after, okay? I don't need to take this time. Any other questions?
I just signed up while I was sitting here, so thank
Awesome.
you for.
Oh, good. And it's on our website, the Tompkins County EMC website. There's a link to sign up there as well, so it's pretty easy to get to.
And a couple other things. So we had talked about budget, if there's anything you wanted to bring forward to the budget, so keep that in mind in talking with your group.
Yep.
for next year. And do you want to just mention, since you're here, the Earth Day celebration that you're helping coordinate in Trumansburg?
Sure. We're doing, this is kind of not in my EMC hat, but just an environmentalist, and we're doing expanding what went on last year for a cleanup effort in Trumansburg. And we cleaned up pretty much all the streets in Trumansburg, about 8 miles worth of road, I think, got cleaned in total, picking up trash. And then this year we're expanding it to have an Earth Care Festival part of it, where we have all the kind of volunteer groups, including Algal Lake Watershed Network, Tompkins County Recycling and Waste Management will be there at some point, and we've got the district truck doing waste reduction, and then groups like our tree committees and our conservation and advisory council and Ulysses are going to be there. And then we have also energy providers are coming. We've got music, we've got people painting No Mow May, Feed the Bees signs to participate. We've got the Cooperative Extensions Powerhouse will be there. So
Electric vehicles.
Electric vehicle meetup. Annie hopefully or her partner will be there. So we're gonna, hopefully it'll be a good time to kind of center stuff outside of Ithaca and somewhere else doing a little Earth Day thing. But there is a big Earth Day thing in Ithaca too at the farmers market. So if you're an Ithaca person, check that out as well. And the EMC will be tabling at the farmers market.
Great. And so that's Saturday, the 22nd, 9 to 1. Is that correct?
That's the one in Ulysses, yes. Is
The one at Trumansburg, the Trumansburg Farmers Market.
Farmers Market. And the other one, I believe, is 9 to 3 at the Ithaca Farmers Market. Yeah.
If you want to help clean up, they supply all the materials, the vests and everything you need.
And that's all done through the Algal Lake Watershed Network. They have this Embrace the Lake program that we are actually partaking in to get all that cleanup materials.
Thanks, Kate.
If there's any other questions, feel free to email me anytime.
I just want to say Newfield had their cleanup day on Saturday, and Cuba Lake Watershed was there and helped and supplied all this stuff, and I
Yeah.
think there was 34 volunteers, so.
That's great.
Great, and even though it's not your direct community, the county as a whole is our community, so come on over and help us out. Thanks, Kate. All righty, next we have Cynthia Brock coming up from the Tompkins County Water Resources Council to give their annual report. Cynthia is the chair of that organization and also city council person, Ward 2? 1. I should just try not to say it. I just always get it wrong. Sorry, Ward 1.
Ward 1.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yes, I'm happy to provide a brief update on the actions of the Water Resources Committee. The report is in your agenda. Every year, we start the year by reviewing our organizational structure and our committees to focus our efforts on accomplishing the actions as outlined in the Water Quality Strategies report. This is a report that is updated every 3 years. So starting with the work of the Executive Committee, oftentimes there are actions that need to occur between our meeting structure, and we are called upon to provide comments to state and federal regulators. So that happened quite a bit. These letters of comment are written by our committees and then brought to either the WRC as well as the Executive Committee for approval. Executive Committee if it falls outside of our regular meeting schedule. So some of the comments that we had provided, comments to the DEC on their proposed delisting of the southern end of Cuba Lake for silt and sediment from the 303D list, and our concern about what this means with impacts on sediment-related phosphorus on the draft TMDL, which is not yet adopted, as well as the absence of a 9-element plan for Cuba Lake. One of the major findings of the Cuba Lake monitoring report that was completed in support of the development of the TMDL was to state clearly that phosphorus and sediments cannot be separated from the southern end of Cuba Lake. We provide comments with regards to the DEC's changes to the Speedies general permit for stormwater discharges in MS4 municipalities and how that relates to the delisting of southern end of Cuba Lake from 303D. Provided comments on proposed changes to CAFO regulations and permits. We provided a letter of support for Lansing in their CFA application to fund their Salmon Creek realignment project to reduce sediment runoff as well as provide stream bank stabilization. We provided a letter on the draft New York Great Lakes Action Agenda and the importance of including the Finger Lakes into the Great Lakes watershed. We do believe solidly that increased participation of organizations in the Finger Lakes, such as our soil and water conservation districts, the Cuba Lake Monitoring Partnership, and non-governmental organizations will provide increased partnerships and benefits to the larger watershed management plan. And we also provided a comment letter to the New York State Department of Health on proposed regulations for PFAS, otherwise known as forever chemicals, and expressing support for recognizing the potential dangers that result from these contaminants in our water. One of our committees is the Great Lake Monitoring Partnership, Cuba Lake. See, I'm now thinking about Great Lakes. The Cuba Lake Monitoring Partnership Committee. They help provide many of the comments and research. They worked with modeling of nutrient modeling for Cuba Lake, received updates on Cornell's Earth Source Heating Project and tracking its progress and its monitoring. We received, through the Great Cuba Lake Monitoring Partnership Committee, a presentation on Cornell University's phosphorus offset program. And they continue to interact with other organizations throughout the watershed, such as Community Science Institute, Cuba Lake Watershed Network, Cuba Lake Environmental Action Now, as well as the Tompkins County Planning Departments, the EMC, and Department of Environmental Health, as well as Cornell University.
Cynthia?
Yeah.
Since we're getting a little pressed for time, do you want to just hit a
Sure.
couple more highlights, and then we'll open it up for questions?
Okay. We have a Rules and Regulations Committee that is keeping an eye, or members of that committee include the Department of Health, as well as our 3 surface water utilities, Bolton Point, Cornell University, and City of Ithaca, which are all engaged in the New York State DEC Drinking Water Source Protection Program. The City of Ithaca has actually adopted that report. We're also following OWASCO's Watershed Rules and Regulations as that goes through the New York State process. And finally, one of our committees has the Municipal Training Committee put together a very well-received and attended program in October that included members from highway departments from across the county to participate in training on, again, sediment control and stream bank stabilization.
Thank you. Any questions for Cynthia? Comments? Randy?
Yes, Cynthia, you mentioned Cornell's earth source. Is that the same as lake source? Is that just a new term, or?
No, this is their program of receiving earth source heat. I think they're drilling down
Couple miles.
a couple miles
Right.
into the earth. So it'll be earth source heating and cooling versus lake source heating and cooling, which, by the way, we'll be having a tour at their lake source cooling facility this afternoon
It's at 3:30.
at 3:30.
So regarding lake source, you talked about the delisting of the southern part of Cuba Lake. Is that after reviewing all the issues with lake source cooling, or so explain that to me a little more, of the delisting of the southern part of?
Well, the DEC did propose delisting the southern part of Cuba Lake. The WRC has made comments opposing that delisting, thinking that it is significant. It also ties into other funding programs that would help fund municipal projects in terms of reducing sediment migrating into the lake. So we think it's important to keep southern end of Cuba Lake listed, or at least understand the impacts of delisting the southern end of Cuba Lake at this point.
That makes sense. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. I was going to try and go on the tour, but I have knee surgery tomorrow morning scheduled now, so I'm just trying to get things ready. And while I'm saying that, for the meeting tomorrow night, for our legislature meeting, Veronica might give up the report. If I'm going to try and attend remotely, but even if I attend, I'm not sure how with it I'll be. So Veronica might be giving that report and guiding you through. And any other questions for Cynthia?
Yeah, can I come on the tour?
Of course. Come
Cool.
join
I'll
us at
ask-
3:30 at the Cornell Lake Source Cooling Facility, which is across the street from Myers Park. Not Myers.
Where they had the boats?
We're East Shore Marina.
It's where
What's
they
the
have
name
the
of it?
sailboats.
East Shore
Yes.
East Shore
Marina.
Sailing?
Yeah,
East Shore
okay.
Sailing? is it?
Sailing Center. There's also a
Oh,
town
yes,
park
yes.
there, so it's not Myers Park, it's the town park
East Shore
there. but-
Park, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool, thank you. My other thing, while I was sitting here, a constituent emailed me asking about algal blooms.
Here's the address.
Thank you. I don't want to get deep into that, but are harmful algal blooms something the Water Resources Council follows? And where would I go to find updated, I don't know, who's at the forefront of trying to deal with them now?
Well, the Water Resources Council is very much focused on reducing sediment and phosphorus from running off into the lake. We do work closely and have members from the Community Science Institute, which does a lot of lake monitoring to monitor the harmful algal blooms throughout Cayuga Lake, which, as you know, have been expanding both in time period and frequency in Cayuga Lake. I could send you a link to their website that is also, I believe, linked with New York State DEC with regards to the harmful algal blooms, but I'll need to verify that. But Cayuga,
If you just look up Community Science Institute, and even not even through their website, I've just looked up, if you're looking for monitoring of like you're going to a specific place, like Owasco Lake, I've often looked up, because I go over there a lot. And you can look up on a New York State, just look up HABs, and you can find a map of the current reporting.
so I'm happy to send you that information as well.
Yeah, thank you. Are you all doing work on, or maybe you said it, restrictions, or like, do we have any local restrictions on phosphorus levels or sediment, or I don't actually know what all contributes to the harmful algal blooms, but local policies conceptually upstream of the HABs?
Right, I believe it's New York State DEC. When you have whether or not it's a municipal facility, for example, like a wastewater treatment plant or a CAFO operation that would be deemed to be emitting nutrients into the lake, they are required to receive a SPEEDIES permit that would then regulate the types of management practices that would be imposed to reduce that nutrient runoff. One of the things that we are paying close attention to, as I mentioned previously, is the watershed rules and regulations. So Owasco Watershed is seeking to establish updated rules and regulations which would allow their region to impose additional oversight and control over origins of nutrients that might be going into Owasco Lake. We're watching that process very closely and to see if that's something that can be emulated in Cayuga Lake watershed. In the meantime, while we're waiting for that process to play out, looking at the DWSP2, which is the Drinking Water Source Protection Programs, those are is another tool that we can look at specific watersheds and the nutrients that run into those drinking water sources. So Bolton Point, since Bolton Point draws its water from the lake, Bolton Point's DWSB2 plan would actually encompass a larger region than, say, Cornell's DWSB2, which is only focused on Fall Creek, and the City of Ithaca's DWSB2, which is only focused on 6 Mile Creek. So different ways of trying to elevate partnerships and communication and oversight to manage those types of nutrients, not only on drinking water, but as we understand, would also impact harmful algal blooms in the lake.
I'm going to just cut the conversation there, I'm afraid, because we're over time. But I just want to say, if you go to the tour, they're having their meeting, the Water Resources Council, your meeting right after that on location.
Yes.
Right? So you could stay for that if you want and follow up and ask some of these questions possibly, or connect with people to get some of these and answers. And I want to thank you and Kate. I wish we had more time to talk with both of you about all the great things you're doing. And all of us are always welcome to come to any of these meetings, to either bring questions or hear what they're doing. So thank you very much. And if there's anything ever, I know EMC sometimes does, if there's any letters or resolutions you want us, I know time is often of the essence. Feel free to bring a resolution or something for us through this committee that you want us, and then through the full legislature, if we can help, help advocate for all the great things because you guys are constantly, looking at all these things. So if we can help in some way, let us know.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And of course, as an advisory committee, all members of the public are welcome to join our meetings, and the agendas are posted on the Tompkins County website as well.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Great. Thank you.
And next, we have the FEMA firm process update. Take it away.
Okay, I know some of you guys are on HED, so you saw something and had a similar conversation, but as this process evolves, there are new things to share, so no worries.
And as we're pressed for time, how much time? Quick? All right. Quick, no question, questions you can ask later.
Yeah. Okay, so, there we go. So one slide, again, just looking at that for folks that were at HED, just looking at this process. So that discovery meeting happened in 2014, then the kickoff here in Tompkins County in 2019, flood risk review meeting, which was at the library in 2022, so just about a year ago. And then we had the preliminary flood map be released in January of this year. That CCO meeting happened on March 8th. My update significantly on this slide from HED are the open houses. There are two. There will be one on April 26th at Ithaca High School, and the other on April 27th at the Whole Health Department, 55 Brown Road.
What time are those?
They both start at 4:30. They're both from 4:30 to 8:30. They are drop-in. No one is required to be there the whole time. There will be tables folks can visit to have their specific questions answered. The county, our department will be there as well, as will the city. We will both have tables to answer questions. I will also note just updates from when we talked about this last at HED. Things that are happening. We are very close to finishing a webpage on the Tompkins County website that will house information strictly from FEMA, because we do want to make it very clear to folks that this is a FEMA and DEC process. This is a federal state process. We do not have control in this, but we do want a central location where the information can be found. The goal is to have that live by the end of the day. And there will be a press release that should be going out end of day, early tomorrow. And we have a final new product from FEMA that was made specifically for Tompkins County that is much more user-friendly and hopefully will help folks find the information they're looking for. There will be a kind of like Google Maps. You can type in your address and search and see the information for your property. The other thing that's happening there as well, our department is working on getting a list of newly mapped properties out to the municipalities so that they can have more help in contacting those specific owners and properties in those municipalities. That is the update.
Great, and I know I'm going to try and make one of those dates, the 26th or the 27th. I encourage folks to make a note and go to that, then you'll have more information, for, to talk to your constituents with in your municipalities. Any questions? Don't think so. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Got newish glasses. I'm trying to read the paper here. Next, we have resolution on page 31. Are you doing that too, Abigail? So this is making a negative determination of environmental significance in relation to resolution number, and that number is in our legislative packet, but it's adding a parcel to the agricultural district, the first agricultural district on Thomas Road to town of Caroline. Do people need information on that, or? Yes, sorry, so somebody can move it. Veronica, seconded by Randy. Any questions on this? Is this the one we already talked about before, right? So
The public hearing for this is tomorrow.
tomorrow night, and the vote is tomorrow night, right?
The
Or
vote
just the hearing?
will be the first meeting in May, I believe.
Okay, so just the public hearing is tomorrow night. Okay, so we'll have another chance to talk about it if people do have questions. All right, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor of agreeing to the negative declaration resolution? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Now, moving on to Barb, all of a sudden at the table. Snuck up there. So sorry we're running a little late, and...
Good.
Okay. So you said first there's an information item. That's on packet page 40 about the scale and service. Did you want to say anything about that? Or are we all... I mean, you don't have to. Hi, Leo.
Hello, good morning. Yeah, the scale service, that scale is all done, and we're submitting the first audit today. We're holding back, I think, 5 or 10%, I believe, for a couple of items that we're waiting for. So we'll have a final payment next month for that scale. Other than that, we're all up and running over there.
Great. And Randy?
What's the plan for the other scale? Is that in the future?
The second scale, we probably have another good 10 years with that scale. It's unfortunate we had to replace the outbound one as soon as we did, but if there's any positives to it, when the time comes, we replace one and the other is still in good shape. So it'll be on a good kind of a sequence, if you will. Yep.
Thank you. And packet page 41, we have a resolution to award the contract for Cayuga Compost. Could someone move that? Veronica, seconded by Susan. All right. Would you like to, I think it's pretty self-explanatory,
Well,
but.
actually, just be quick.
Sure.
Yeah, all we're doing here is we have a terrific relationship with Cayuga Compost, local firm in Trumansburg. They make a wonderful product. Jeremy Betterly is here. He's our waste reduction and recycling coordinator that oversees our organics program. Jeremy, is there anything you wanted to add?
We worked with purchasing to move this forward as a sole source contract, which we think makes a lot of sense. It's a 3-year contract with option to renew. And I can leave it at that unless anyone has.
Yeah.
And that's been a number of years we've been working with them, right?
Yeah, going back, Barb could say better than I, but I believe the mid-2000s we started working with them.
Yeah, they started out at Cayuga Nature Center, and believe it or not, then they operate their own facility. There was a climate smart grant that we got to buy some equipment. It's a synergistic partnership, and we are dependent on them, of course, for all the residential and commercial food scraps that roughly are about 1,700 tons a year, and we're adding new drop spots as we go. Enfield, your place is starting up soon in May. It's number, 17?
That'll be 18.
18, even number.
Wow.
We got to get to 20 this year. Okay, that's about it.
Great. And
Thank you, Jeremy.
great to see one of the, full circle locally, food scraps
It
go
sure
locally to
is.
Trumansburg area and then get resold here and other places as compost.
Yeah, very affordable to
Okay.
everybody.
Any questions before we vote? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jeremy.
We took care of scale installation.
Did that. And so then we have a recycling market update.
Yeah, Leo's going to give you a quick update. There was a graph in your packet.
Page 45.
Yep, maybe you can take a minute to go over that.
Let's see, yeah, I know we've mentioned ACRs in past meetings. ACR is average commodity revenue for the materials that we recycle over at the Recycling Solid Waste Center. So the graph that's attached is just kind of giving you some history. I believe I got 12 months on there, and you can kind of see the highs and lows of the pricing over the past 12 months. We're in a low period right now. I think January was around $22 a ton on average. The most recent in March, I think was up around $48 a ton. So it's a good sign that it's coming back up. Just to give you an idea, we budgeted in 2023 at $105 a ton on average. So
I think it was 160 back last year sometime, so it was a reasonable number.
Yeah, so there can be a lot of volatility with that pricing, but it is a real major driver of our budget. So.
Yeah, we're going to be meeting with Norma and Lisa. It's my last meeting, and we're going to be talking about budget year 2023. It's not pretty. Right now, we're looking at a potential loss due to the recycling revenue of about $300,000. We happen to have, this is like year number 6, we happen to have a sizable savings fund balance that is about 24%. We're required to keep 16%. I know the counties keeps less. And what we're going to be really working on is creating, I think we'll still be okay with our fund balance for next year. We might have to cut some budget. Well, the budget season is about to start for us. So we'll probably be at about 18-20%. After this, but who knows, optimist, we didn't expect it to go up so high last year, and it is climbing. We'll have a really good sense in the next day or two about what that average commodity revenue ACR is for March. That'll complete our first quarter. So you'll be hearing more about the story. I did want to just give you the revenue update just as a precursor to what we're going to be doing next.
And Leo, I think you'll be taking over as acting director.
He's our interim director, and I'm getting ready to finish up. I've got a bit more to do on the job description to advertise the position. I have been talking it up amongst environmental circles as well as others capable.
Well, we're certainly going to miss you, Barb.
Well, you know what? Things come and they go, right?
Full circle.
Yeah. Oh, don't tell me I'm there yet.
You'll be rethinking the next stage of your life.
Right now, I'm in cleaning out the house mode and reuse. Today's my 14th trip there. Thank goodness for the reuse center, right, Kat?
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you so much. And let's see, our New York State Green Purchasing Communities. Kat, are you here to?
Kat put a summary in the packet, but what?
Page 47.
So yeah, Kat and Terry have been working together.
Okay.
And I really applaud the work they've done. I think they would like to speak for 2 or 3 minutes about their work. It's going to the legislature.
Yeah, I did want to note that this is also related to 9B on the information item for the procurement policy. So I don't know if...
Do them both together.
Yeah, is that okay to do?
Yeah.
Sure.
So the Green Purchasing Communities program is something that New York State came out with in December of 2022. so pretty recent. It's designed to really support and make it easier for local communities to buy green. So as a representative of the EPP team, we did form a small subgroup. Terry's been involved as well as Barb to kind of take a look at what this program entails and what it might mean for the county and how we might be able to move it forward. So really, again, as I said, the goal is to make it easier for the county to buy green. The Green Purchasing Communities Program provides access to Green New York specifications, and there are over 75 of them currently available, and they're continuing to build it. So some of the benefits of signing on to this program is additional access to resources like those specifications, as well as potential recognition for the county for its participation in this, along with aligning with our current goals already with that improved environmentally preferable procurement or green purchasing. So in order to sign on for the program, there is a policy change needed that just says that, to the maximum extent practicable and where cost effective, we will utilize these Green New York specs when they are available. Long-term, we hope to see that help increase more access to materials in the marketplace and more green products, as well as possibly see more competitive pricing on certain products as well. So the next steps with that policy and with some of the changes really is, the shift to the procurement policy to incorporate these Green New York specs. There's an application that we would fill out, and then we provide that to the state. And then in the long term, I think there's a little bit of support that would be coming, both with the EPP team as well as the finance department to help departments begin to incorporate these specs into the process.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to add in, so I think we've mentioned it before, but Haley Delisle in our office is working on recertifying the county as a climate smart community. This is a new action in the climate smart community. If you are seen as a Green New York, a green purchasing community, you receive additional points on your application. So, we're excited to include this if the county does end up applying and being admitted into the program, including that as part of our submission package and, continuing our quest to maintain our silver status, which is the current highest level of that program. So really happy to be able to work with Kat and with Barb on this and excited for what this will mean for the county.
We've been also involved, our department, with the climate smart communities in terms of scoring new green communities and giving out the points. And I really enjoyed that. And I know the state appreciates that Kat's going to continue doing what I was doing. And it's just nice to have state involvement. I know you have it in a number of areas as well. So we're pretty proud of this.
And then with, for climate smart communities, that helps us, leverage.
Yeah, it helps us on some
things.
certain grant applications. So traditionally it's been on the Climate Smart Communities grants, but last year there was a Department of State grant that was looking if you were a certified Climate Smart community and giving you additional points. And so we think that we'll start seeing it on more grant applications from the state as well.
So not just bragging rights to have that or things to be proud of, or a way to mark benchmarks, but also it helps us,
the magic of this has been really the teamwork of our two departments that report to Peak, and I think you realize now it really makes sense for both departments to come to the same committee.
And the procurement policy that you're talking about, if you're looking in the packet, that's actually under the county administrator's report. So if there's anything else you wanted to say about that too, Norma, that's information item on packet page 57.
I think there might be a comment or two if you don't have any from those guys. No. Did you want to make mention of what this is all about real quick?
Yeah, so that's just the step kind of in taking that next step forward with the Green New York Purchasing Communities program. And the edits in there are pretty minor, really focusing on incorporating those Green New York specs into
Okay.
Want to hear about the solid waste update real quick? That was the last item on number 8.
Sure. That's on packet page 49.
Well, what's amazing, there's such synergy that's going on as I ready to retire. The business about green communities coming at the same time as the EPP team has been launching a lot of work. And this synergy is the state actually has provided their draft solid waste plan for this, for the entire state and the local planning units. And we've been very busily working on our document locally. So if Kat could just talk to you, this is all about the synergy between what we've been doing and even similar title with what the state's been doing.
Yeah, so as Barb mentioned, it's really great timing that New York State came out with their state solid waste management plan draft. It actually covers the same timeframe that our current draft plan is going to be covering as well. And I think one of the keys is that it really provides us with a little bit of direction and understanding of where things might be going at the state level, which certainly impacts kind of what we're doing at the local level as well. Barb referenced the title. I think it's very interesting and kind of just really synergizes and kind of reinforces what we're currently doing, because the state's plan is called Building the Circular Economy Through Sustainable Materials Management. Our plan is also really centered around that concept of sustainable materials management, as well as this thought process about the circular economy, really kind of enforcing and creating systems that use materials for their highest and best use for as long as possible.
Tell them the name.
So ours is Rethinking Waste, Fostering a Local Circular Economy. So interesting to see that these two came out kind of independently named, very similar process. But I think that's kind of telling in the fact that we are headed in a similar direction to where the state's looking. They've set forward aspirational goals for waste reduction and reuse. They've identified 6 focus areas, which I won't go through all of them, but I think there's a number of them that really align with kind of what we're focusing on, such as the waste prevention, reduction, and reuse, the organics management, which is very well aligned with a lot of our food scraps recycling, food waste prevention goals and processes, and as well as product stewardship, extended producer responsibility being areas that can kind of help support where we're going. So the state does have public comment on their plan through May 15th, and it's, again, as I said, it's great timing as we're wrapping up the process for our draft plan and planning on bringing that forward for review around in the next month or so.
And it's great because we are going to submit a comment or 2 or 3, but I will say that the last time we were involved in this was back in the late 80s, and our plan was done and approved by 1995. It took a while. The other thing about this is we're going to be, influencing the state is what we hope, because we're such leaders that when we provide comments, and I've already heard from both Anna Kellis and from he's the director for the recycling materials management for the state, and he's been around as long as I have, Dave Vitale, and he thinks that, we're really leading the state. So we'll make you proud on this one. And I'll be probably kayaking down the Arkansas River when this happens with my daughter, so.
And does Shasta come on, your dog come on?
Shasta and Quinn go hiking with my husband.
Okay, when that happens. I just want to say, to put a little plug in and give you credit, Barb, you and your department have been on the forefront for many years.
And we'll continue that way. We have the best people, and they have more years ahead of them. And Leo and I have been together for 17 years. Kat was with us for 10 and came back. It's truly amazing how good people are now really, with the county, and I'm not the only department that's true for. I've noticed it, and I mentioned it as I was celebrating how the legislators are all good and the staff are good, and that has not always been the case. So,
well, it certainly does create a really robust and forefront organization at, the county to have such great employees. So thank you, Barb, and everybody.
Right? Yeah, every once in a while I'll go to a party there. They have good parties at our department. Not the kind you think, it's just food, yeah. All right, thank you very much.
And if you want to just stay there for
Yeah, we need to stay
second,
for
because we're
Brian.
going to bring up Brian Eden. We're going to move up, sorry to put you off on your last thing there, Norma, but we want to bring, before you guys go, since you worked on this together, we're going to move the resolution on page 71. This came from the Climate and Sustainable Energy Board, but also with Kat and Barb working on this too. This is a resolution urging the New York State Legislature to pass a strong packaging reduction and recycling infrastructure act and expand the state's bottle bill. Would someone like to move that one? Susan, seconded by Veronica. Who would like to tell us about this?
Brian has been very committed. We've been very committed. I would like Brian to speak first, and then we'll just take a minute or two to follow up on what we think is most important about this.
Okay, Brian, take it away.
Well, I know we're short on time. I'm suffering a little topic whiplash here. I was here for a meeting at 7:30 this morning, for an 8 o'clock meeting on a different topic, but we're quickly moving to this. But you know, I don't want to waste your time with going into the details. I spoke to you briefly at the last peak meeting. I will attend the legislature meeting and make a few remarks. But I mean, you know, packaging has been expanding, and it's a place where the county can save money. The residents can save money. We're talking about all these nonprofits that need more resources. And here's a way that we can recapture some of the ones that we need not spend for addressing excess packaging. You know, we can reduce the solid waste fee, and so we have this recycling budget deficit. I mean, I just think we have to take every opportunity to recapture, and this is a way to make mostly very profitable companies responsible for the waste that they produce. So, and we understand plastics is totally out of control. When I was on EMC, I introduced an ordinance to deal with single-use plastic bags, and we wrote the regs, and we did a FAQ. And fortunately, it wouldn't have been, a lot of communities were passing their own individual ordinances, but the state stepped in and had a uniform one, so that was good for all the manufacturers and the retailers, that there was one statewide way of addressing that. So I would just say that, you know, plastics, we see that it's a burgeoning problem. We see the fire that was in Richmond, Indiana, the plastics recycling fire in Georgia over the weekend, the East Palestine train wreck with a lot of exposure. We're just pumping out so much plastic, and we're having a lot of accidents and a lot of people being exposed to highly toxic chemicals. And then we have no way of really using all of this plastic. I mean, you know, the proposal is that we should be really burning the plastic. Well, we don't want to do that because there's a lot of other things mixed in with the plastic that are toxic. So I'll just leave it at that, and I'll come tomorrow, and because the full legislature hasn't heard me speak about this, I will keep it without having too many people take your time, but I think it's a very important issue, and I hope you will support us.
This is the most important issue facing New York State with respect to a number of areas. Number one, we have been plagued with taking on as a municipality the full cost and the burden of recycling. Recycling has gotten to be very expensive, and it's private companies that have large needed facilities and equipment, and probably should be charging a little less, but there's reasons for it. Markets are suffering, and this type of action, I've been involved with the New York State Product Stewardship Council for 7 years, and what we're going to see if this happens is an organization that's going to, one, require manufacturers, and the one resolution you have here is also more inclusive than others I've seen, to require the right kind of people to be involved and make sure it has clout. That will happen. There will be a subsidy, 50% for municipal recycling programs. Number two, Brian's absolutely right. Plastic pollution is out of control, and the packaging industry needs to reinvent how they produce materials. And number three, the bottle bill. And you can remember one of your former legislators, Dick Booth, who worked at Cornell in environmental planning. He and Dick Fisher back then were responsible for the original bottle bill. Brian, I think you were too. And it's been a long time. A nickel is worth nothing anymore on these bottles. And what this is also trying to do is increase that to 10 cents. There's just everything about this that resonates with me, and I'm sure it will with you. Kat, do you have anything?
I just wanted to add that, one of the other marketplace changes that we're seeing is we have increasingly complex packaging, mixed materials, and it's more challenging to deal with than what way back when we were just dealing with cardboard and paper and glass. Some of these things are combined. It makes them very hard to handle at end of life. So by incentivizing manufacturers to take responsibility, I think there's also the opportunity for more design for recyclability, design for reuse. Why don't we see more reusable packaging? So I think there's a big opportunity there, and to see this provide some of that direction as well and incentivizes that.
Yeah, it's really, to me, appalling when I try and buy like just regular fruits and vegetables and belong to a farm share and, buy breads at the farmer's market when I can, but I can't always. And so, go get some, like a vegan product that it's in a box, and the box itself, when I do that test to go try and rip it, and it's like lined with plastic on the outside for no reason, because inside the other product is in a plastic bag. It's just like, and so you can't recycle so more and more the cardboard that you're getting on products, the paper products, the boxes, you can't even recycle the box anymore. And so that's, it's ridiculous. And if we have them, if the manufacturers be responsible, they wouldn't make these products that way. It just doesn't make sense.
I think it's all good, and I think that there's, it's been a long incoming issue at the state level, and I have, if anybody has any questions, between the three of us, we're pretty expert at this.
Certainly are.
On the bottle bill, is it going to include additional bottles? I know there's a lot, like milk bottles, for example, they're not recyclable.
The answer is yes. It would include liquor bottles and other types of glass and plastic.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is just so ready. And, when we talk in our new solid waste plan, which we're very excited to share come May, with the public and with you, rethink. It's about rethinking waste, and Kat has authored that little section is really brilliant, so we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, all containers are packaging, so if it's packaging a liquid or a solid, so containers are considered part of the overall issue of recyclability and reuse.
The main reason the plastic came on board is because glass is heavy. And so companies were able to put more product in a plastic container and ship more because it's a lot less weight.
Also much cheaper.
Yeah. But there's two main schools, Michigan State and Virginia Tech, who are the biggest packaging schools in the United States. And there is alternative packaging. They've already designed it. It's just a matter of it's more expensive, right? But it's already been developed. So I hope this goes through.
And that's why we're so strong about environmental product procurement and green purchasing. I wanted to mention Amanda Champion has been really instrumental in moving, and you were too, with the original resolution on the product packaging, but the two, like Randy's talking about, are intimately related, and it's confusing. EPR as well as EPP. So environmental product procurement is EPP, and an extended producer responsibility, also known as product stewardship. So I wanted to make mention, because this topic is not straightforward.
One way that I sometimes look at it when people say, well, it's more expensive to have different packaging. It could be that it's not, but the producers are going to say, and have been saying, oh, it's more expensive. But when you go back, if we went back in time, and like Randy was talking about, like if we took it back that way to say, oh, instead of your bottle of Coke being in this glass, hey, our company's gonna make more money if we put it in this toxic plastic, and we're gonna pollute, and in your municipality, instead of us taking that Coke bottle back, your municipality is gonna have to figure out what to do with that plastic, and you're gonna have to pay for it with your tax dollars. So if we look at it that way, it doesn't make sense, and it's not fair.
There's a lot of issues that we don't consider the negative externalities of their producing them. And, that's the same thing with fossil fuels. I mean, we have huge subsidies, and then we have the impacts of those fossil fuels that need to be cleaned up. The storms are getting worse. So it's, you have to look at the life cycle approach, and things that may look more expensive at this part of the calculation, it may come out at the end to be more cost effective and environmentally friendly.
So thank you for bringing this resolution forward to us and explaining it. Are we ready to vote? All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
Tomorrow to the legislature.
I believe, is that on the agenda for tomorrow night? Okay.
Okay, great. Oh, wait, we have more.
You have more?
Plus equipment.
Okay, you want to stay for that? Okay. Norma, do you want to talk about that, or you want these folks to?
She's happy to let us talk for a minute.
Okay. All right. All right, so this is the draft procurement.
The reason it's on this way is because Bridget, the other deputy, did quite a bit of work with Kat on this resolution.
Bridget Nugent, okay.
Do you want to?
So this one, again, is one that's being brought forward through collaboration with the EPP team.
Page 57, folks.
And the surplus equipment and supplies policy. We have kind of gone through the process, incorporated feedback along the way. It was discussed briefly at last month's meetings, and just wanted to reiterate and kind of highlight that currently we're making revisions to really bring it up to date. For example, the way that our surplus of computer equipment is being handled and how it's being managed has shifted a little bit, and so we want to make sure that that's reflecting that accurately. The policy, as it has in the past, again, prioritizes reuse. So where possible, we're going to do internal reuse within county departments. If there isn't an internal reuse, can we reuse it externally, donate it locally, and then if it can't be reused, can it be recycled or properly managed and disposed? The other thing I'll note is that we used to use an email listserv to identify internally kind of how materials are, what's available, and then kind of claim those ones. We are in the process of working on an update for that, so you'll be seeing more of an app with internally so that people can post and claim items a little more streamlined way.
So an app, so it would be on a computer or what?
Yeah, I believe it'll be more through like a computer or like a web interface so that it just makes it a little bit easier, whereas like a listserv is a little, kind of, we've got newer technology that we can utilize.
Lauren's going to be continuing Greg's work on this, and it'll be right on the county website.
So people could say, hey, I need, a computer, or I need
eBay.
A desk, and I can go look and see if there is one?
Yeah, so if you have an item that you no longer want, you could post it there. I think one of the changes too is we're proposing surplus equipment and supplies, so kind of expanding that ability to say I have this X that might not be considered equipment, but is still something that could be reused, maybe not utilized within the department that has it. How can we get it to somebody who can use it?
So that would be within the department, and then if it can't, it could go, it's available for other departments too. Great. Susan?
I just have a question. Is this just for county departments or county agencies? I'm thinking back when
Like the library?
Yeah, at the library, when we had excess equipment, we would try to figure out ways to, like computers, for example, we would try to find an organization that might need it. Is this something that an agency like the library would be able to participate in?
Well, I think I know the answer, but it would really be Bridget that could clarify at the ledge meeting, or Lisa. This, whatever, before in the past, it was for all of the county organizations as well. And if it turns out, as it gets launched here in the next couple of months, I'm sure that it could include all. And it only makes sense because there's some organizations that are more needy in terms of what resources they have limited. So we'll double check on that, but we can report it out.
Thank you. I mean, that would be great. It makes sense.
Norma, you had something?
I just wanted to add, though, so the computer equipment, though, it does have to go through and be scraped, right?
Scrubbed.
Okay. Scrubbed, yeah, so thank you. So that can't be.
Yeah, that is.
Okay,
No,
he
that's
was
an
talking about.
exception.
I just wanted to make sure, because I can't imagine that ITS wants to take out another agency.
There's already policy on
Yeah,
that.
the library,
saw that.
I think their
Yeah,
IT
thank you.
is, well, it used to be outsourced to Sherpa, which is gone, and now it's changed. But there's a very rigid program there
Right.
for cleaning
Yeah, I just wanted to set the
computers. Yeah,
expectation
so
that it
let me
was
reassure you, yeah, absolutely, because of all the
Yeah,
confidential.
this is with like office equipment, office supplies, or even things in highway, et cetera. I'm glad you made mention of that.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for working on this. And Norma, and so thank you for everybody from the Recycling Materials Management. And Barb, again, thank you so much for your service. Right. Feel free to linger. We have snacks over there. Norma, did you have anything from administration?
No, I didn't. That is a resolution, though, that needs to be moved.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. The other one was for information, but this one is actually for action.
So there's a resolution, packet page 50, and Veronica moves that. That's to update the policy on surplus equipment and supplies that was just talked about, seconded by Susan. All those in favor? That passes unanimously. I think, Brittany, we got everything. And thanks for letting me rush some of you folks to get done actually before time. All right. I'll move that we're adjourned. All in favor of adjourning? Thank you, everybody, and help yourselves to some snacks. Thank you.